Welcome to the Masonic Authors Guild International, or MAGI. The Guild's mission is to promote the highest professional and academic standards in Masonic research, education, and publications. To further the Guild's mission, every week short papers on various topics basic to understanding Freemasonry will be presented. These papers are not simply to inform the listener, but to entertain, and are often written by many of the most popular and influential Masonic writers of the past and present, and from many nations. In this episode, we read the first of what will surely be many more by American Carl H. Claudy. Born in 1879 and died in 1957, perhaps the best-known and most admired Masonic author from the 1920s until his death. Claudy had a rich and varied life. Born in Washington, D.C., as a young man he prospected gold in Alaska, before turning his talents to writing, photography, and journalism. He wrote several books, science fiction stories, and novels. In 1923, he became the executive director of the Masonic Service Association and produced approximately 350 short talk bulletins. He also wrote numerous Masonic plays, essays, poems, and other publications. He served as Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of the District of Columbia in 1943, and he greatly assisted President Harry Truman in distributing White House stones with Mason's marks to American Grand Lodges and numerous other Masonic bodies. Long after his death, Claudy remains a popular and respected author. Reprinted in his 1948 Masonic Harvest anthology, here is his article titled, quote, "Stupid Atheists," unquote. The first of the old charges, quote, "concerning God and religion," unquote, begins, quote, "A Mason is obliged, by his tenure, to obey the moral law, and, if he rightly understands the art, will never be a stupid atheist," unquote. That all petitioners for the degrees of Freemasonry believe in deity is a fundamental requirement. In 40 of 49 grand jurisdictions, he must so state in his petition. That all elected candidates who receive the entered apprentice's degree publicly express their belief in deity is a fundamental requirement. No lodge would knowingly accept the petition of any man unwilling to profess his faith in deity. We are taught that no atheist can be made a Mason, and the reason usually assigned is that, lacking a belief in deity, no obligation can be considered binding. The real reason for the non-acceptance of atheists into the fraternity must go deeper. We are not entirely accurate when we say that no obligation can be binding without taking an oath. Our courts of law permit a Quaker to affirm instead of taking an oath to tell the truth, inasmuch as Quaker's religious belief does not permit him to swear. Yet a Quaker who tells an untruth after his affirmation is subject to the penalty for perjury as the devout believer in God who first swears to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and then fails to do so. The law holds a man truthful who affirms, as well as one who swears to tell the truth. No atheist can be made a Mason, far less from the lack of binding power of the obligation taken by such a disbeliever, than from Freemasonry's knowledge that an atheist can never be a Mason, quote, "in his heart," unquote. Our whole symbolism is founded on the erection of a temple to the Most High. Our teachings are of the fatherhood of God, the brotherhood of man, founded on that fatherhood and the immortality of the soul in a life to come. A disbeliever in all these could never be happy in our organization. What is an atheist? This question has plagued many a Masonic scholar and thousands of men less wise. It is still a matter of perplexity to many a man who fears that the friend who has asked him to sign his petition is an atheist. It is possible to spin long-winded theories about the word, draw fine distinctions, quote learned encyclopedias, and produce a fog of uncertainty as to the meaning of, quote-unquote, atheist, as hopeless as it is stupid. From Freemasonry's standpoint, an atheist is a man who does not believe in deity, which immediately brings out the far more perplexing question, quote, what is the deity in which a man must believe, unquote. Here's where all the trouble and the worry comes on the scene. Man's idea of God differs with the man, his education, his early religious training. To some, the mental picture of God is that of a commanding, venerable figure with flowing white hair and beards. The great artist Dory so pictured God in his illustrated Bible. Such a concept fits naturally in a heaven of golden streets flowing with milk and honey, while winged angels make heavenly music on golden harps, the whole while deity judges between the good and the evil. Such an anthropomorphic God, derived from descriptive passages in the Bible, added to by the drawings of artists and crystallized in an age of simple faith, have given such a concept to many who find it adequate. Others conceive of deity as a bright spirit, who moves through the universe with the speed of light, who is, quote, without form, unquote, because without body, yet he is all love, intelligence, mercy, and understanding. The man who believes in the anthropomorphic God describes his conception, then asks the brother who believes in a bright spirit, quote, do you believe in my God, unquote. If the answer is in the negative, the questioner may honestly believe him who answers to be an atheist. The deity of a scientist, a mathematician, a student of the cosmos via the telescope and the testimony of geology may be neither anthropomorphic nor bright spirit, but a universally pervading power which some call nature, others great first cause, and still others cosmic urge. Such a man believes not in an anthropomorphic God, nor in God as a bright spirit. Shall he call his brethren who do not so believe atheists? Have they the right so to denominate him? To the geologist, the very handwriting of God is in the rocks and earth. To the fundamentalist, the only handwriting of God is in the Bible. Inasmuch as the geologist does not believe in the chronological life of the earth as set forth in the Bible, the fundamentalist may call the geologist an atheist. Per contra, the geologist, certain that God has written the story of the earth in the rocks, not in the book, may call the fundamentalist an atheist because he denies the plain testimony of science. One is as right, and each is as wrong as the other. Neither is an atheist, because each believes in the God which satisfies him. You shall search Freemasonry from Regis Poem, or oldest document, to the most recent pronouncement of youngest Grand Lodge. You shall read every decision, every law, every edict of every Grand Master who ever occupied the East, and nowhere find a ukase that any brother must believe in the God of some other man. Nowhere in Freemasonry will you find any God described, catalogued, limited, in which a petitioner must express a belief before his petition may be accepted. For Masonry is very wise. She is old, and wisdom comes from age. She knows, as few religions and no other fraternity has ever known, of the power of the bond which lies in the conception of an unlimited God. A witty Frenchman was asked once, quote, do you believe in God, unquote. He answered, what do you mean by God? Nay, do not answer, for if you answer, you define your God. A God defined is a God limited, and a limited God is no God, unquote. From Freemasonry's gentle standpoint, a God defined and limited is not the great architect of the universe. Only God unlimited by definition, God without metes and bounds, God without name by any conception, is the fundamental concept of the fraternity, and to believe in whom is the fundamental requirement for membership. In her Fellowcraft degree, Freemasonry teaches of the importance of logic. It is perfectly logical to say that the finite cannot comprehend the infinite, a truism as exact as to say that light and darkness cannot exist in the same place at the same time, or that sound and silence cannot be experienced at the same moment. A mind which can comprehend infinity is not finite. That which can be comprehended by a finite mind is not infinite. Therefore, it is logical to say that no man can comprehend God, since the only mind he has is finite. But if a man cannot comprehend the God in whom he must express a belief in order to be a Freemason, it is obviously the very height of folly to judge his belief by any finite comprehension of deity, which is the best of all reasons why Freemasonry makes no attempt at definition. She does not say, quote, thus and such and this and that is my conception of God. Do you believe in him? Unquote. She says nothing, allowing each petitioner to think of him as finitely or as infinitely as he will. The agnostic frankly says, quote, I do not know in what God I believe or how he may be formed or exist. I only know that I believe in something, unquote. Freemasonry does not ask him to describe his something. It is to him that which may be named God, no matter how utterly different from the God of the man who hands him the petition. Freemasonry asks nothing more. If it is to him that which may be named God, no matter how utterly different from the God of the man who hands him the petition, Freemasonry asks nothing more. He must believe. How he names his God, how he defines or limits him, what powers he gives him, Freemasonry cares not. It is probable that the majority of those who profess atheism are mistaken in their reading of their own thoughts. An atheist may be an honest man, a good husband and father, a law-abiding, charitable, upstanding citizen. If so, his whole life contradicts what his lips say. In the words of the poet, quote, "He lives by the faith his lips deny. God knoweth why." Unquote. Many a man has reasoned about faith, heaven, infinity, and God until his brain reeled at the impossibility of comprehending the infinite with the finite, and ended by saying in despair, quote, "I cannot believe in God." Unquote. Then he has taken his wife or his child in his arm and there found happiness, completely oblivious to the most profound, as the most simple fact of all faiths and all religions: where love is, there also is God. But Freemasonry does not go behind the spoken or written word. With the full understanding that many a man who definitely denies the existence of God is actually not an atheist, quote-unquote, in his heart, our order nevertheless insists upon a plain declaration of belief. There is no compromise in Freemasonry. Her requirements are neither many nor difficult, but they are strict. Having accepted the declaration, however, Freemasonry asks no qualifying phrases, nor should any of us question such a declaration. It is not for us to let our hearts be troubled because a petitioner's concept of deity is not ours. It is not for us to worry because he thinks of his God in a way which would not satisfy us. Freemasonry asks only for a belief in a deity, unqualified, unlimited, undefined. Her sons cannot, fraternally, do less. When the Great Schism in Freemasonry ended in 1813, and the two rival Grand Lodges, the moderns, who are the older, and the ancients, who were the younger, schismatic body, came together on St. John's Day to form the United Grand Lodge, they laid down a firm foundation on this point for all time to come. It was later declared to all by this, the primary Mother Grand Lodge of all the Masonic world, quote, "Let a man's religion or mode of worship be what it may, he is not excluded from the order, provided he believes in the glorious architect of heaven and earth and practice the sacred duties of morality." Unquote. What a man thinks about the glorious architect, by what name he calls him, how he defines or conceives of him, so far as Freemasonry is concerned, may be a secret between deity and brother, kept forever, quote, "in his heart." Unquote. This podcast is for educational purposes and perhaps entertainment. While the Masonic Authors Guild International provides the most accurate information possible, listeners use the information at their own risk. This podcast and its contents are MAGI's property, as are all the opinions and information it presents. Robert L.D. Cooper, Mark Tabbert, and any other speakers' views and opinions within the podcast do not represent nor speak for Freemasonry, any Masonic organization, their former or current employers in any way, shape, or form. MAGI, Cooper, or Tabbert will not compensate you in any way whatsoever if you ever happen to suffer an inconvenience due to the information herein contained.